Hi, everyone. Welcome to Fear Assembly. With me today is Cody Leach as well as Stoney. And we're going to talk about everything horror from the new releases as well as other great films that we're going to recommend that you can go and check out right now. So, with that, Cody, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm Cody Leach. I've been on YouTube for soon to be 10 years, doing movie reviews, a big focus on the horror genre, but I talk about a little of everything and, branched off into TikTok and IG and all that. So I'm sure you've seen a good bit of my short content if you follow a lot of horror channels. And I'm accredited by the Critics' Choice Association and Rotten Tomatoes and all that good stuff. So just took a love of movies early on and turned it into a full-time career.
Excellent. Stoney, how about you?
Going on, everybody? It's your boy Stoney the Great. I actually am the opposite of Cody. I started off on short form with TikTok and Instagram. Follow me on my channels at Stoney the Great. That's THA, not THE. Started off on TikTok, Instagram, and then I recently finally started locking in on YouTube. I've been trying to break through the YouTube creator program for like 4 years now, and all thanks to the Michael movie and the fact that I have gone completely uber viral with my Michael Jackson movie breakdown content. I am now fully monetized on YouTube. I have almost 66,000 subscribers, almost at 1 million followers on TikTok. I got about 55,000 more to go. Just hit like 263K on Instagram, got 112K on Facebook. So I've been doing pretty smooth. Started off doing mostly fun fact, actually, I actually started off doing collectibles. That's how my content started. I used to review like Funko Pops and my action figures that I would buy. And then that eventually went into movie reviews. As a big horror fan, I wanted to find a niche. This was around the time when everybody on TikTok was just doing a lot of MCU content, and I just felt like I was just being a copy and paste creator. So I stopped doing the MCU stuff and I started going into what I knew best, which was horror. And then I started to expand into just pop culture in general. So, but horror is still my main thing.
Thanks for that, Brian. So, what aside from Michael, which I think is a fantastic movie, and I did see it in IMAX with the wife. She loved it. It's an excellent film. Made me want to get up and dance. Which very few films have done in the theater. For me, I think I've brought up Hustle and Flow in the past as another one where people were actually getting up and dancing at many parts. Hence the Oscar win for 3 6 Mafia, but. What have you been watching on the horror side recently?
Um, I have really been deep into analog horror. That is like one of my favorite things. And that's why I really was anticipating the Backrooms movie
Mhm.
because, analog horror, creepypastas, that's something that is still somewhat of an untapped market, but I can see Hollywood starting to pick up on it. Like, we just had the Exit 8 movie that came out in April, which is based on a video game. It's all about liminal spaces. Backroom, same thing. Skinamarink, that technically wasn't like an analog movie. So that's really where I've been at. I've been on YouTube a lot, just like looking at a bunch of analog horror series. It's from Vita Carnis to The Boiled One, Local 58, all, Gemini Home Entertainment, Monument Mythos, like just the whole analog horror space has really been intriguing me. I've been watching a lot of that on the non-movie side, but on the movie side, it's been recently saw Hokum,
Mhm.
um, going to see the back rooms. I'm actually talking to A24 now. They're hooking me up with a screening. Um, Going to see that tomorrow. I was supposed to go last night, but it was storming in my area. And I was like, yeah, I'm not leaving the house. Um, so yeah, Hokum, Backrooms, Exit 8 recently, Obsession, sensational, sensational film, by the way. And recently saw Passenger as well.
All right.
Not so sensational.
Not so sensational. Not so sensational.
Cody, you
Okay,
got you
so
got some
okay, so it's
opinions to
okay
share.
to
Yeah.
slander if we need to. Okay, got it, got it, got it. I was gonna be
Well,
nice about
keep it
everything.
tasteful. Keep it tasteful.
Okay, I was going to be honest, but
No,
I
be
wasn't a big
honest.
fan of Passenger. I mean, love Paramount. I actually had a deal with them, with Passenger.
Mhm.
Um, it was decent, but it wasn't that great, being honest.
So jump scares, but story so. How would you describe it? Why was it disappointing?
For me, it was it felt, I'm trying to work this right. It felt like a movie made by a non-horror fan
Mm.
who thinks that's what horror fans want. Does
Mm.
that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like, I think this is what they want. So, you know what I'm saying? You can always tell when a horror movie is made by a horror fan versus when it's not. Like, you could tell Obsession was made by somebody who loves horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell that Passenger was made by a studio that just wanted to make some money.
Sure.
Yeah,
Cody, you're nodding your head. Yeah, go ahead.
with Passenger, I mean, I'm along the same lines as Stoney as far as what I've been watching lately. I haven't really been diving into analog, but I've been really like knee deep in Steven Spielberg movies, so I haven't been watching horror too much at home. But we've had a ton of horror releases. So yeah, Obsession. I mean, I've been buzzing and hyping on that movie ever since I saw it last September, and I'm glad that it's matching what I thought it was. Sometimes when you see a film early at a film festival, there's a lot of exciting circumstances around it that can kind of inflate your experience a little bit. And then as soon as the public gets a hold of it, they're like, man, you've been hyping this up and this thing ain't nothing. And then Obsession has just been everybody just losing their minds for the most part, which is awesome to see. Record numbers. I mean, it's so well deserved. Hokum I wasn't as high on, but it was good. Really solid scares, solid atmosphere. I just didn't really get into the story so much. But yeah, Passenger, man, that was one where the way I described it in my review was the opening 6 or 7 minutes of that movie could have been like one of the best horror short films of all time, but there's another 90 minutes after it. And everything after that opening, which was kind of the center of all the marketing that got everybody hyped for it, it just felt like a typical entity chase movie. Only it's on the road rather than being in the house or, you know, somewhere else. And so you have characters where it felt like such a missed opportunity where you got these main characters where their whole thing, their drive, no pun intended, is to like not have roots anywhere. Let's just go on the road. Let's just be free nomads. We'll just kind of figure it out as we go along.
Yeah, they were a van life couple.
Yeah, it's like a van life thing. And they touch on that culture a little bit, which was fascinating to me because I'm so the opposite. Like I'm not let's just live on the road person. So I kind of wanted to know more about it. But it felt like there was such a missed opportunity to have like the entity itself be some kind of like a reflection of their fear of putting roots down. Like they have to keep moving to stay away from him or something. And they eventually have to vanquish him and realize that they should probably, you know, settle down somewhere. And it just didn't feel that. It was so surface level of just this thing's chasing you now because you fucked up and you pulled over on the side of the road, which is kind of a lame reason to get haunted. And you have the very cliche ridden path in the movie where it's just like she starts looking on Google and finds the rules immediately. And then there's this middle-aged white woman that knows all the lore and she's going to tell you all the things you have to do in the back half of the movie. And so yeah, it's a movie that peaks very early on with an incredible opening, and everything after that is just like, oh, I've seen this movie before.
Got it.
It feels like they took notes from a bunch of other horror movies and like just said, this movie did it, we'll do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you were describing that, it kind of reminded me of how I felt about Lights Out, which was one of my favorite short films of all time. James Wan saw it, picked it up, said, hey, let's go make a feature. That had a big studio release. And the story kind of meandered. And I'm intrigued to see what they do with the sequel, because there is going to be a sequel now for that. And I hope that they make it more terrifying and build a deeper story and deeper characters around it. That's my hope. So what else are you looking forward to watching this summer, Cody?
This summertime, I think Evil Dead Burn is probably the big one as far as horror that I'm really looking forward to. Like that, I used to say back in the day that Child's Play, Scream, and Evil Dead were the three most consistent horror franchises. And unfortunately, now I'm at a point where I'm like, Evil Dead is the last one left. So Evil Dead, like I've liked all of them, and I really enjoyed this guy's previous film, which was Infested. You know, you watch that movie and you hear that he's in charge of Evil Dead and you're like, oh, I already see it. Like I could see the vision there. And so that one's one that I'm really looking forward to. But my most anticipated for the rest of the year period is Zach Kreger's Resident Evil. And I know for a fact Stoney is with me of being like, you know, the people on the internet going like, let the man cook. Let him do his thing. Like he clearly is a fan. Just let him do it. If it sucks, we'll be the one saying we were wrong. But like, let him do his thing.
There's a whole like wave of creators who are what I call Resident Evil defenders.
Yeah.
And I've made a lot of content about Zach Cregger's Resident Evil. I have, like, every single time news breaks about that film, I'm right on it because for one, it comes out on my birthday. So, you know, I definitely want, that's a good birthday gift. And as somebody who grew up with the Resident Evil games and remembering when that first Resident Evil movie came out, and I think that's something that a lot of times people of, I guess, I don't really know how old Cody is, but I'm 34. I'll be 35 this year, so I'm a millennial. As people of my age group who remember when that first Resident Evil movie came out, how distraught we were even as kids because it didn't look like any of the games that we were familiar with. You know, at this time, this was before Resident Evil had went to the over-the-shoulder, more action-focused games with Resident Evil 4. But up until this point, we had Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, we had Code Veronica, we had Outbreak, we had real slow burn horror-based Resident Evil games. And then we get the Resident Evil movie, and it's essentially Blade in the Matrix put together with a few zombies sprinkled in. And everybody was like, what the hell is this? Like, this is not Resident Evil. Like, you just made a zombie action movie and slapped Resident Evil's name on it. And we got that for years. And that movie, and it turned into a franchise. Like, I think it's like, what, 6 or 7 of those movies?
6 of them, and then you got Welcome to Raccoon City after that.
Which actually is the more faithful adaptation of the Resident Evil games, but nobody liked it. Even though I don't know why they picked him to play Leon Kennedy, because he didn't look nothing like Leon.
That was the one spot I couldn't get past. I could forgive everything else.
Honestly, I would have gave that movie a little more credit if Leon actually looked like Leon. I'm like, y'all just casted a dude and just named him Leon.
Well, he didn't even act like Leon because he was the butt end of a joke. He was like the dumb rookie, and I'm like,
Leon is a badass.
The disrespect.
Right. Like, you completely butchered my boy for no reason. So it's like, it seems like even when the Resident Evil movies do get a chance to do it right, they just still don't do it right. So I'm like, hey, maybe Zach Cregger can do it because I trust him. You know, I've been a Barbarian defender since I saw the movie in 2022. I loved how that movie was marketed. In my opinion, Barbarian is one of the greatest marketed horror movies of all time.
Yeah.
Because if you watch that trailer, you think that it's a movie about 2 people who got booked at the same Airbnb, and the owner of the Airbnb is a mysterious, crazy person.
Right.
Like, that's what you think. But then when you see the movie, it takes a completely different turn. You know what I'm saying? And so many horror movies have become predictable with their marketing lately. And it's like, oh, I can already tell how this movie's going to end just off the trailer. But Barbarian, it was completely by surprise. And I love that. So I trust Zach Cregger.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Zach has earned my trust, and I'm with you. Barbarian and Weapons both were in like my top 3, top 5 of the year, both years they came out. I think they're both fantastic. But I was the same emotional reaction as most people online, where it's like Zach Cregger's doing Resident Evil. I'm like, hell yes, that's who I would pick. And then the first thing he says is, I'm doing my own story. I'm not following the game. So I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go again. And I understand that emotional reaction, but then you start to hear the guy talk about what he's trying to do. And for one, he confirms without a doubt that he's a fan of the games. You know, you always hear that, the director, the studio, oh, we love these games. And then you watch the movie and you're like, I don't think you played one of these. I don't believe it. With Zach, he talks about it and I'm like, okay, I believe it. You're one of us. But he talks about like, we're not going to try to like recreate the story or the characters one for one. We're not going to feel like beholden to them. But I'm going to try to bring the experience of the game to the big screen. I want somebody to watch this movie and know what it's like to play one of these games. Just be this average person that gets descended into this hellish situation, and you're upgrading your weapons and you got item management. And I'm like, I don't think anybody's done that. So if you nail it, that might be the crack in the code of how to do a video game movie right. So I'm willing to give him a shot.
And the reason why I think that works so well is because, again, if we can go, because honestly, this whole freaking episode can be straight Resident Evil. It messing around with me. I'm being so serious. Like the lore is deep, bro. Like,
I'm with you.
I made a video recently where I said the 2 games that saved the Resident Evil franchise were two games that completely deviated from the Resident Evil formula. Resident Evil 4 originally saved the franchise back in 2005. It was the first game that was over the shoulder without a fixed camera, and there were no zombies even in the game.
Yep.
And that ended up being the best Resident Evil game. It saved the franchise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Fast forward. Resident Evil 5 comes out. It's kind of like a copy and paste of Resident Evil 4. Had a lot of controversy. People really wasn't rocking with it all the way, but overall, it was still a great game. That thing started to get a little goofy. You had Chris punching boulders and shit. And, there was a whole controversy about the African village. In my opinion, that's stupid. If Resident Evil 5 is racist, then Resident Evil 4 is racist. So you mean to tell me it's racist to shoot a village of Africans, but it's not racist to shoot a village of Spaniards?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I just, fair is fair. So I don't just cut that out. Resident Evil 6, everybody hated that game. Everybody hated it. It's on record. And one thing that I hate about social media is people acting like when you say stuff like that you're just making it up. No, bro, the general consensus is that everybody hated Resident Evil 6. So then we go into 2020, I think, 2021. What game then resaved the Resident Evil franchise? Resident Evil 7, which completely deviated from any Resident Evil game. There was no mention of Umbrella at all until the very end. There were no characters from the other Resident Evil games until the very last second when Chris showed up. Ethan, completely new person. And on top of that, it was first person. And Resident Evil 7 is essentially just a Texas Chainsaw Massacre simulator.
Mm-hmm.
And it became the scariest game in the franchise. And everybody says that Resident Evil 7 is what saved the Resident Evil franchise, because after that, we started getting all the remakes and everybody started falling in love with the games again. Mm-hmm. And then here comes Resident Evil 9, Requiem. Once again, slightly deviating from the formula because it introduced a brand new character that we knew nothing about. And in my opinion, the Resident Evil movie that Zach Kreger is doing is kind of like what they did with Grace. Because Grace, unlike Jill, unlike, Chris, unlike Leon, she is a regular, schmegular person. Mm-hmm. She's not trained. You can visibly see her scared in the game. Like when you hold the gun, she's shaking and you know what I'm saying? So Requiem showed us that you could take a regular person and make a great Resident Evil game. So I feel like Zach Kreger studied that and put a regular person in this situation, somebody that we would relate to more versus a cop like Leon or something like that. And instead of completely deviating from the story, he's basically putting this new story within that original story. It's like a side story, like they did with Resident Evil Outbreak. So everything that he's doing has been done before in the Resident Evil franchise, but you wouldn't know that unless you knew the game for real.
Yeah. The thing that I've really been trying to harp on, because I'm with you. I'm part of that group that considers themselves a Resident Evil diehard, and I eventually do want like a TV series or some kind of a faithful adaptation. I think it can be done, but I also think that Zach Kreger's movie can almost be like a backdoor guarantee of that. If this thing hits and if it succeeds, then that just makes people want to make more Resident Evil. If it bombs, like a lot of people on the internet want it to do, then kiss those prospects goodbye. But when you have people that are like, this movie is not faithful to Resident Evil, per everything that you just said, my question is always, what does faithful to Resident Evil even look like? Is it a zombie game and movie? Is it a werewolf movie? Is it a vampire movie? Like, we've had everything at this point, so there's room for some new shit.
And just to switch gears just slightly, I mean, what are your thoughts on the Last of Us, right? Which is obviously on HBO, and I think they're going into multiple seasons to come.
I loved season 1. I think that is about as great as you can expect a live action adaptation to be. The things that they changed, for the most part, I all really enjoyed. Like, literally the only real critique I have of that is I felt like the last episode was a little bit quick. There was a few things that could have breathed a little bit more, but I thought that season 1 was masterful. Season 2, I had such a roller coaster with, because I am a diehard defender of that second game, and not many people are. You either love it or you hate it. And I think that game is a masterpiece. And so I knew they were going to have a struggle with TV viewers probably having the same response. Some people loving it, some people hating it, but it's such a deep, epic, long story. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know how you're going to do this justice on screen. And knowing that they were going to eventually split it into seasons, I was like, man, I hope you got your ducks in a row, because you could really screw this up. And as I was watching the season, every episode I liked more than I disliked. Like there was changes, there was information you got really early on that in the game was way later that I wasn't quite sure how it was going to play out, but I was willing to kind of go along with it. All the way through the season, I'm like, all right, like I'm digging it. Like it kind of feels like we're quickening Ellie's journey a little bit too much, but I get it. Like 7 episodes and budgets, I get it. And then you got to the finale. And man, that finale like tarnished my entire experience where in hindsight, I look back and I'm like, nah, you guys screwed this up. And like, there's so many things that you did that just kind of felt like it took the air out of the balloon. And you were asking way too much from TV audiences to be like, oh, you know, that character that you're supposed to despise. Well, now you got to wait 2 years to get the answers to what's going on. And you're going to follow her for a whole season. And it's like with the game, you can just keep playing. Even if you're begrudgingly playing it, you can get the answers right then. With a big wait in between, I don't think that's going to work out well for them. And so I would not be surprised if season 3 is it for Last of Us.
Yeah, and the challenge with episodic adaptations too is many times you have a different director, you have different writers, so it's hard to keep that continuity of the storyline, and then there's certain boundaries that you're not supposed to cross, and obviously you get told, hey, this character has to make it to the finale, etc. This one, do what you want, and then you kind of see what where they take it creatively. But yeah, the video game adaptations are always kind of a toss up. I mean, I remember being really excited to hear that one of my favorite video games of all time, Doom, was getting created into a film, and that obviously did not work out really well. I don't know
You mean
what
the one with The
genre
Rock?
that was. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was God. Video game adaptations, bro, have literally been plagued since day one.
Yeah.
Like their video game adaptations are so interesting because it is the one subgenre of film that the general consensus is that they're about 85% bad and 5% decent and 10% good. Actually, no, I would say about 80% bad, 10% decent, 10% good. I won't be that harsh.
Yeah.
Because for every Super Mario Bros. From 1993, every now and again, you will get a Mortal Kombat 1995. Where it's like, that's terrible. That's a classic.
Yeah.
And yeah, Mortal Kombat 95 wasn't perfect, but let's be honest, if we were to compare it, to movies like Street Fighter from 94, that's an Oscar-winning film in comparison. You know what I'm saying? And then you got like the Mortal Kombat 2021 versus Mortal Kombat 2 that came out this year. Mortal Kombat 2, while not perfect, was still a pretty decent and fun movie. So when it came to The Last of Us, season 1, like Cody said, I really did enjoy it. I loved the special effects, what they did with the clickers, what they did with the bloater, like all of that was gorgeous. Like it looked great. A few casting choices I wasn't like that big of a fan of, but it is what it is. And going into season 2, when they were going to adapt the second game, I already knew what the pushback was going to be. And that's because a lot of people who didn't play the game don't understand. And I feel like video game audiences are a little bit different than TV people. TV people are a little more loyal to the characters and things like that, whereas a video game, we're kind of used to playing as different people.
Right.
You can't play a Grand Theft Auto game and be mad that there's no more CJ. CJ had his time. You can't play. You can't play Red Dead Redemption and get mad that John Marston wasn't playable in part 2. It was Arthur Morgan. We already get accustomed to playing as different people. Same thing with like Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yote. We are Assassin's Creed. We are already accustomed to new game, new character, new chapter, new character. So it was easier for us to kind of transition into playing Abby because like at first it was like, I don't want to play as her. She killed Joel. But then when you start to understand her story a little bit and then you learn why she did that, it's like, okay, Abby's not really the villain here when it comes to that situation, because if Joel can kill someone who she loved to protect someone that he loved, how does that make him better than her? So us understanding the depth of that backstory and playing with these characters instead of just watching them, we have a different connection and understanding versus the TV audience is like, I don't like this. This is you're switching it up. I don't like it.
Yeah.
So our new season 2 is going to have some pushback, and I feel like they tried their best with it, but it's just not my thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, so I think that's a good lead into the next subject that we're going to discuss. So one of the big purposes of Fear Assembly is to make recommendations and help our listeners discover great films that they can check out. So a subgenre that I'd like to discuss is the apocalyptic films, and the ones that I would definitely recommend, starting with a well-known film, would be World War Z, which of course is also a zombie film, but if you're going to end the world, let's end it in style. Let's make these zombies fast. Let's have them run around. Let's have it take place in major cities with big names. In this case, Brad Pitt. And I'm excited to see what they do with the sequel as well. And the hidden gem that I want to call out is Cloverfield Lane. This was the sequel to another great film, Cloverfield, J.J. Abrams produced over a decade ago now. But Cloverfield Lane was a much more dramatic psychological film. John Goodman has a great performance in that one, and it basically all takes place in like a doomsday bunker where there's all kinds of stuff happening outside the bunker, and the main character is trying to escape as she realizes that the people that she's in this bunker with may have not so great motives and objectives that they plan to carry out in their version of where the world is going to go. So those are my 2 picks on the apocalyptic side. Cody, how about you?
Yeah, so apocalyptic is a genre that I have kind of a messy relationship with. There's a lot of favorites that I've never really been as high on as some people, but one that I still don't know if this is a hot take or not, because it feels like remakes always kind of get the short end of the stick with most people, but I think this is easily one of the best we've ever gotten. I'm a huge fan of the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead remake. That's if I
I
was to give
love
you my
that
number
movie, bro.
one. Oh yeah, if I was to give you my number one zombie film of all time, it's that one.
I
This is
love that
one.
movie, bro.
Good. We're in good company then.
I love that movie. Like, I remember seeing that in the theater when I was like 13, bro. Like that, I love, and because my dad, I'm a big horror fan because of my dad.
Yeah.
So I remember watching the original Dawn of the Dead on a VHS tape that we got from our local video store, Orbit Video. I am showing my age. By the way, I
You
remember
can't
watching
say
that
that,
with him.
man. I'm in my mid-30s too. We don't show our age yet. We're 8 years away from being able to say that.
Facts. Yeah, and I remember when they announced the remake, and I remember we saw it in the theater. I just remember that experience, man. It was so much fun. Like, this was the early 2000s. Like, I feel like people had more fun in the theater back then. Like, they didn't mind verbally screaming and expressing their excitement. And this was also around the time where like fast zombies were starting to be a thing. All thanks to like 28 Days Later. And I loved how they took the same concept as the original Dawn of the Dead and modernized it. And they modernized it so well that, in my opinion, the original Dawn of the Dead and the remake of Dawn of the Dead both are like even, because they presented something so totally catered to the era that they came out in that you can't negatively compare them, in my opinion. Dawn of the Dead 2004 is literally that. It's for 2004. Not Dawn of the Dead 1978 is literally that. It's for 1978. They didn't try to they didn't try to reinvent the wheel. They just upgraded it. I love that.
Yeah, and that's what a remake should do. There's so many classics there where people say, like, why would you ever try to remake this when it's perfection? And I always say, like, well, if there's a totally different angle, or if there's something untapped about the original, at least give it a shot. Because, if the remake sucks, you just never watch it again. It doesn't tarnish the original like a bad sequel can. And so with the Dawn of the Dead remake, like, Zack Snyder is never trying to recreate any of the social commentary or the quirkiness of the original. It's just like, let's just go balls out, insane tension and action. Like you said, post 28 Days Later, I'm one of those people, I don't know if it's an island or not, that I prefer the fast zombies. I find them much more horrifying to me than just kind of the slow hordes. So that's a huge leg up for this film. I love the cast of characters. I mean, you got Ving Rhames in there, who I always love, and a bunch of people that were kind of mildly unknown at the time, but went on to do a number of things. Really quirky script too, which James Gunn, I think, either completely wrote or at least had a hand in, and you can feel that. It's got one of the best openings to a horror movie ever. I mean, when you have
Agreed.
that little girl that comes in, and I was telling Cole about this before we even started recording. One of the things I love and remember about this movie so much was it was the only movie I ever saw try this as a marketing tool. I don't remember if it was Spike TV or something, but they'd announced like, we're going to play the first 10 minutes of Dawn of the Dead uncut after this program. And you watch it, and it's literally the opening of the movie up to the point where Sarah Polly crashes her car, and then the Johnny Cash comes in. And so you hit that, and it's just like, well, Dawn of the Dead's in theaters this Friday, and you're like, I got to go now.
Yeah.
And
that was great.
that movie just never lets up. Even the third act with the murder buses, like it's just iconic shit to me. And I also love
And
the
it's
fact
funny.
that, it's funny. And I love the fact that it just gives you no hope in a movie that's still fun. So it doesn't feel punishingly bleak. But, if you stick around through the credits, it's like, oh, and they all die.
I call that one of the. Honestly, bro, I call Dawn of the Dead the remake. To me, that is a decade-defining film.
Yeah,
because it is very 2000s.
Yeah.
It is so 2000s to its core. Like
Down with the Sickness.
Yeah, like it's such a 2000s like anti-conservative, it's a punk rock movie. Like it's so like that movie. If Dawn of the Dead 2004 was a person, it would be a punk rock white kid who drinks Mountain Dew and Monster and plays Xbox all day. Like that's what Dawn of the Dead 2004 reminds me of. That skater punk rock white kid with the Monster energy drinks and the Mountain Dew. Like that's what that movie is. They had the rock music in there. That's the one thing I loved about the early 2000s. It was just so cartoonishly unhinged.
Yeah.
My hidden gem, this is one that is a bit of a genre crosser because this is as much vampire film as it is post-apocalyptic movie, but it's a film called Stake Land. And this is one that came out in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, I believe. Early 2010s. And this is a film that came out when the stench of Twilight was still very much in the air. Nobody wanted to touch vampires or werewolves. It's like it's been tainted. That's never going to be scary ever again. Thank God the last couple of years we've gotten out of that with some awesome vampire movies and hopefully a great werewolf movie this year. Last year, not so much. But but Stake Land is this movie that I think I just saw in like a YouTube ad. And I was like, oh, a vampire movie that's actually serious. Let me try this out. And it's basically if you take like a post-apocalyptic zombie film, but you replace the flesh eaters with bloodsuckers. And so you have the world is pretty much desolate. You got this young kid where his family was just murdered by a vampire, and now he's kind of out on the road. He ends up crossing paths with this this character named Mister, who's kind of like a drifter Van Helsing character, where he's not really out to be heroic, but he'll just fuck everybody up if you're in his way. And it's very much like things like Walking Dead and Last of Us, where the humans and the different factions are just as, if not more, evil than the monsters that have taken over the world. And so there's a really cool sequence where like a rival settlement is trying to attack one that's a little bit more peaceful. And so they literally just start dropping vampires out of a helicopter. And it's a low budget movie, but man, it's one of the coolest and most interesting vampire films that came out at a time where me especially, I'm like, please God, can I have a horror vampire film? Like it's been long enough.
I haven't seen this one. I'm going to check it out tonight for real.
Yeah. There's two of them. There's two of them. The second one's solid too. It's called Stake Land, the Stake Lander, or Stake Land 2, the Stake Lander. They're both worth watching, but the first one's certainly, if you're going to watch one of them, do that one.
Yeah. See, the way you feel about that movie is how I feel about 30 Days of Night. Like, thank God I got a good scary vampire movie. Love 30 Days of Night.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, yeah, Stoney, what are your choices for apocalyptic films? Give us a well-known one and maybe a hidden gem.
Okay. For a well-known one, I have two actually. One that is horror adjacent and one that is a horror movie. This one because it's actually getting a sequel. I Am Legend. They're making a sequel based on the alternate ending.
It's going to be so weird to see how that plays out.
It's going to be very weird.
How many people even know that ending exists in the average
But the
public?
crazy thing about it is them doing the sequel is actually more lore accurate to the source material than how the original movie ended.
Well, I
Because
prefer the alternate ending vastly, so I'm glad they're
Right.
canonizing that. But it's going to be
Right.
weird to see how many people be like, "Why is Will Smith still alive?"
yeah, so they're gonna have to definitely explain that in the marketing. And I think the reason why I love the original ending so much is because it's a plot twist. It makes it you watch this whole movie thinking that he's the victim.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of it, you realize, oh, you're the bad guy for like essentially. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And it gave a different outlook to the infected.
Yeah.
You know, instead of because if you notice, like with zombie movies, and any kind of vampire movies, werewolf movies, we see these monsters or these creatures and we see them as the antagonists. But when you really think about it, every zombie, every werewolf, every vampire, every, creature thing, they're victims.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody asked to be a zombie.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to be a zombie. These were people who were infected against their will. So they're acting on their new nature that they unfortunately cannot control. Vampires don't at first they don't want to be vampires. They try to fight back, but they get bit and they get infected. So, these are people who lost their autonomy. And although they may be, violent creatures, at the end of the day, they're victims. And I think that's what I Am Legend really showed. Like, these are regular people who just could not escape this virus. It's not their fault. And the man who created the virus is now picking us off and using us as experiments. That's a completely different and unique angle that I've probably, I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah.
So my apocalyptic one would be that one for a well-known one. Another well-known one would be something that's horror adjacent, because I think this movie was terrifying in when you think about it. Contagion.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's a good one.
One of the things that I started my content doing was I started a series called How Is This Not a Horror Movie? Where I would talk about a movie that wasn't marketed as a horror film, but is actually terrifying when you really think about it. And I think after COVID-19 happened, it made Contagion that much more terrifying.
Yeah.
Mhm.
To know that we were heading in that direction if it didn't get under control. So yeah, Contagion is a great, unintentionally scary movie. But to play off of Your Dawn of the Dead for my hidden gem would be 1979's Lucio Fulci's Zombie. Because that one was actually made to be kind of like a prequel to Dawn of the Dead, even though it wasn't made by George A. Romero. It was made to serve as like a prequel to Dawn of the Dead. Because it showed where this outbreak started on this remote island. And then at the end of the movie, you see the zombies moving into the States because you see him on his bridge walking into the city. And if you watch Lucio Fulci's Zombie first and then watch George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead afterwards, you can see how it kind of like flows right into each other. And I think it was unique to see a zombie apocalypse movie where it shows you the origin of where the zombies came from. Because if you really think about it, most zombie movies, when it starts, it just starts.
Yeah.
And infected people start coming out of nowhere. But you never really know where they came from, where the virus started. And I think that's what I liked about Lucio Fulci's Zombie. It showed you that these zombies came from this cursed island. And they eventually made their way to the States. And and that's how they took over. So yeah, my post-apocalyptic one would be Zombie for sure.
All you got to tell people is if you ever want to see a zombie fight a shark, check out Stoney's recommendation.
Yeah, they had a zombie fighting a shark, and yeah, that was insane. Some of the best practical zombie effects ever. Best makeup. It's an Italian horror movie, so you already know it's gonna be good gore. Lucio Fulci, he's a great director. I love a lot of his work. He's like the Italian George A. Romero. Once again, that's another childhood movie that my dad put me on to, so it's always had a little special place in my heart.
All right. Stoney, did you have another one that you wanted to mention?
What, for apocalyptic?
For apocalyptic, you said that there was horror, there was a horror adjacent, and then you have
horror adjacent would be Contagion.
Yeah.
Well known would be I Am Legend, and then the hidden gem would be Zombie.
Got it. All right.
You know what's
So
interesting about this I Am Legend sequel is if you had told any of us 5 years ago that they're going to do a sequel with a movie with Will Smith and Michael B. Jordan, and almost guaranteed Michael B. Jordan's going to be the higher paid of the two, that would be wild. But post Slap and Oscar, I think that's exactly how it's going to roll.
Yeah.
all right. Well, if apocalyptic movies are not your thing, we're going to talk about some possession films that we would recommend, and I'm going to start with a couple. So mine is we've already talked about Zach Kreger's first film starring Justin Long. So this is another Justin Long movie called Drag Me to Hell, and the this one is a really fun one because
Evil
it's
Dead's
one
cousin.
where yeah, you would think that for this main character, they have so many ways to overcome their situation, but basically they're cursed in a way. I'm not going to give spoilers on this, even though it's a classic film at this point. And if you have not seen it, you have to see it. There are some epic scenes that have already become memes and other things, but essentially, this cursed woman tries to figure out how to uncurse herself with the help of her lover played by Justin Long. And I'll just say things don't really work out in her favor. The hidden gem that I want to call out, and this was one that I know for hardcore horror fans, they were raving about this movie a couple years ago when it came out. But it's called When Evil Lurks, and it is a foreign language film. I
Love
believe
that movie.
it's in Spanish, if I'm not mistaken, from
Mhm.
Argentina. I could be wrong, but this is one from just a pure visual standpoint. Even if you watch this film on mute, it is a very well done and great cinematography as well. But it is a well done horror film that has a lot of graphic scenes that are going to stay with you forever. And again, I'm not going to spoil what those are. Uh, One person is unaliving themselves with something that they should not be unaliving themselves with. I'll leave it there. But When Evil Lurks is basically about a cursed village, and there's some kind of virus as well that's breaking out, and the locals are trying to figure out if they should just run away, if they should try to stop it, how can they help, and it just seems like whatever they try to do, it just makes matters worse.
Mhm.
And this movie just keeps kind of building on itself. So what are your guys' thoughts on Drag Me to Hell or When Evil Lurks? Thank you for listening. This conversation will continue in the next segment. Make sure to like and subscribe.